I remember once, when I was about 8 or 9, I was watching the movie Robots with a close family friend of mine. Alice looked over at me and back to the screen. I would never seen the movie, but Alex had and was excited to show a particular part somewhere, maybe 15 minutes into the film. So he fast forwarded through the start of the movie, and I gathered what I could of the story. I didn't have a clue what was going on. I have known Alex pretty much all my life. I trusted him with everything and always listened intently to what he had to offer. So when he said, "I gotta show you something, it's really cool," I didn't have much reason to question what. He was younger than me by a couple of weeks, but I always considered him a big brother. The way he introduced me to so many new things, games, movies, and some strange yet intriguing YouTube videos. He was also the person who introduced me to Leave League, but this was much later, a story for another time. This exploration into the media was the basis of our relationship, and he loved finding new things. He was quite good at this. I remember still I was waiting on Alex, waiting on this really cool thing. "It's right about here. This is when it happens," Alex stated. He pauses the section and presses play. Now I don't remember what the scene was or what was actually happening. I just remember watching the colorful robots on screen having a conversation. Suddenly, and with little warning, I notice a light stream of pins and needles rushing through the tips of my fingers and slowly creeping up my palms, through my wrist and up my forearms. A sensation that left me feeling a mix of discomfort and excitement. There was an uneasiness swirling around my skull and the butterflies in my stomach, which at that point were fast asleep, began to wake, then flutter, then shake. Soon they were making their way upward. They crawled their way into my rib cage, navigating between my pair of rapidly inflating lungs and through to the heart. Soon their light wings began to beat faster and faster and faster. And Alex looked over to me again. I barely noticed his expecting gaze from the corner of mine, and gradually he disappeared as haziness tunneled my vision. My breathing started to outlast me, but not too soon after, I heard Alex say, very shakily, "Do you feel it? Can you feel that things?" And I slowly awoke. Yes, I remember waking up, drenched in sweat, but my skin freezing from the bridge of the ceiling fan. My body ached, teeth chattered, and to my left was an acidic split that I couldn't recall when he had ejected itself from my stomach. Credits rolled up the TV screen, and the music sang from the speakers. I peeled myself from the dusty carpet of Alex's living room, wiped away the remainder of the vomit from my mouth, and turned my head to my best friend. He was curled up, leaning against the lounge from the floor. He was too shocked, eyes bloodshot, and actively trying to concentrate on his breathing. For a few moments, the air was electric, like someone had thrown the room through a whirlwind and left us to pick up the pieces. Before I could mutter his name, Alex looked at me. I watched as a shrimp itches its way across his mouth like a crack in thin ice. Alex lets out a tried giggle and says, "I threw up the first time too." This is the first time I have thought about that day in quite a while. It's one of those things you start to believe never really happened in the first place, like it was a false memory. I turned 21 about a week and a half ago. On the day of my birthday, Alex had sent me a card. At this point, Alex and I weren't so much best friends as we were. Kind of friends, I guess. Over the years, we had drifted apart, formed new groups, got girlfriends, moved away, and eventually our relationship became almost non existent. So, the last thing I expected was a card from an old friend. I feel it's important to add this part in. The contents of the card are as follows, as strange as it seems. He writes, Michael, I'm trying my best to keep this all together, but I'm finding it difficult struggling to find the words. I feel like I'm going crazy, but I don't know if what I have been seeing is real, or whether it's just something I made up. I don't know what to think. Fuck, I'm really sorry. I don't have time to get another card. You know to get out. You are old enough now to leave. So you can go. Please, don't go. Please, Michael. Leave while you can and just get as far away as possible. You can do that things for me. I'm sorry, I can't see you, but I don't think you should see me right now. Just when you can, get in your car and go, and just stay away from me. Love you, brother. It's Alex. When I first read the card, I laughed. What the fuck is this chicken scratch? Must have been some weird inside joke I would forgotten. Momentarily after reading, I wanted to text Alex, saying something witty and playful, like "Did you whip your ass with this card?" or something like that. But when I looked for our last conversation in Messenger, it was missing. In fact, Alex's whole Facebook profile was missing, and also his Instagram, and also his Snapchat. Even his LinkedIn profile had vanished. I texted his number with the same sort of message with the edit, and also "Are you going off the grid or something?" to which the message then bounced back. It wasn't seen. The only real evidence I had at the time of Alex's existence was this stupid card written by a madman, confusing, unspecific, and the absolute unintelligible ramblings of a delusional individual. It sounded nothing like Alex, and yet I had to believe it was him. After a few days, I left it alone. I didn't forget about it, but I didn't have much to go off either. The next piece of evidence I found or handed to me, I guess that was the day. My dad woke up with an air of unbridled emotion. I knew he had been crying, but for how long I was unsure. I don't think he slept. He sat down at the end of my bed, something he had done many times before, but this time it was a difficult situation. I adjusted myself. Sliding up to the bed head, I tried my best to seem awake, while rubbing the shit out of my crusty eyes. Dad cleared his throat and swallowed the remainder of his mournful lump, and whispered, Michael, I'm really sorry. He told me a fairly true but filtered story. He didn't want to disturb me with every detail, but that didn't stop me from discovering the rest. Group chats I have been in for years started to flood with messages from people I hadn't spoken to since then. All of them about our school friend Alex. Throughout the day, more details were sent in, and at about 4 p.m. today, I had a grasp of the whole story. A story that seemed to unravel like bandages from a festering wound. Alex was found at 6:30 this morning, hanging from a tree in front of his own house. It's hard to know for sure, but from the information gathered, Alex had climbed the old maple, strung himself up on the thickest branch wearing nothing but a pair of pajama pants and lived, and died instantly. The sheer weight of his own body, plummeting just a few feet downward had whipped his spinal cord into two pieces. Alex was only 20 years old. In a week, he would be 21. I'm struggling to find the words. I feel weird. It's been a few hours since I was told of Alex's passing, and yet I cannot find the tears to mourn him. I feel guilty, but I have been thinking a lot about the letter. I keep glancing over to it and bringing myself back to the screen, trying to just figure out that things out. I wish I could do it. I don't know why he did what he did. I guess the police will do their investigation or whatever. But then what? It feels like Alex tried his absolute best to wipe every single trace of himself off Earth. The only things he left behind were our memories together, and this card. And that memory, man, I can feel it groaning at me again. And the robots? I feel like such a sick freak trying to connect robots to this current to Alex's death. I don't know what to do next. I'm hoping someone could give me some advice. I'm not sure where to go from here. I need some help. I'm going to go mad rolling on the whole thing. I need to get some water. I just got a message from Alex's girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend now, I suppose. Fuck, that's morbid. At least I think it's her. I don't have the number listed. It's Jazz, Alex's girlfriend. I need to talk to you as soon as possible. It's quick and to the point. But is it her? For Alex? I'm shaking so much right now and I'm not sure what to do. I can feel the butterflies waking up and I'm going to respond. I start to workshop a concise text back, one that captures interest but not description. I then receive an image. From the small thumbnail, I can't really make out what it was. I click on that, and I struggle to clarify what I'm seeing. It was a baby picture, Polaroid. It's set up way too formally, and it's Alex. He doesn't look any older than 5. He looks confused, like he is being caught off guard, standing with his arms by his side, dressed in a Thomas the Tank Engine shirt. It isn't a photo I'm familiar with, but the room where it was taken is all too familiar. He sent me this just before he got suicide. What the fuck? I zoom into the image. The butterflies are flying. That's my old bathroom. The paintings are all the same, as well as that weird stain of the marble sink. Then I get sent another image. The same bathroom, the same Alex. Different lighting and clothes. And then another, and then another, until I had a collection of various versions of the same image, the same Alex. I look even closer. I investigate every inch of the frame of every photo. Then I see the butterflies are trying to get lost. In the mirror, I see, just in the corner of the reflection, I think it was like that. I receive one more message, this one supporting my fears. Jazz, who is very much a stranger to me, who I have never even met, ask a relatively simple question. Tell me if I'm wrong, but is that your dad? The butterflies have made their way onto my carpet. Hi everyone. Not sure if this is the right sub as it came up when I searched about insomnia, but I feel like I should tell this here because I don't think anyone else would believe me if I posted it anywhere else. Anyway, my posting this all started with my weird neighbor. He moved in next to me a couple of months ago and has mostly been a shut-in. I have only seen him a few times, and he creeps me out every time. The first time I ever met him was when he moved in. He looked relatively normal. Albeit a little sweaty and dirty, and gave me this strange look as I walked up to greet him. Hi, welcome to blank. It's really nice to meet you. I look forward to seeing you more. He turned around, smiling widely. Have you heard of him? Of who? He looked at me like I was speaking a different language, because bowing his head almost reverently and gasping the next words like a chant. He who speaks the gruesome words in prayer, who gives dire sermons in the Averant. He shows us the way in the revolting and paints the horrific in unholy murals. His eyes twinkle with every word, body shaking with rising intensity as he grabbed my shoulders and pulled me close, whispering harshly into my ear. He guides us in what is unnatural and teaches us to be his children. You will know him soon. Ever since then, every night I can hear him laughing and whispering through the walls. He thumps his hands against the walls and the floor and screams. I can hear someone else talking. It's not as clear though, more like a deep murmur than the high-pitched, reveling voice of my neighbor. I have tried to research about whatever he was talking about when I met him, but nothing has ever come up. In all of my searching, only one result had ever come up, writing and reports from someone called detective. I have skimmed it out, but one passage really stood out to me. It was someone else who reported on someone who also obsessed over he knows that things very well. He who shows us the way in the revolting, whatever that meant. She kept chanting over and over about him. She was devolved into being locked into her room, and stamping the floor, shouting about how you will save her. She has made a large dent into the walls of her room where she repeatedly smashes her head, and when eventually she started bleeding, she would rub the blood into strange sigils on the ground and roll around in them, while crying hysterically as we saw in the final inspection into the room before she shut herself in completely. My team and I did manage to break the door down, but we were far too late. Whatever I could attempt to deceive about the scene that was presented to us as we entered the room would not manage to emphasize the gravity and horror of her condition. She was too far gone. There was no saving her now. It just stuck in my mind. My neighbor had started down that same path as this mystery person who was too far gone after a while. I know it wasn't my place, but I started to spy on him just to be safe. For weeks, I would watch him through the window and try to catch him when he was really outside of the house. He had become more of a shut-in than usual, only coming out to pick up food orders and to check the coast was clear. I reasoned with myself that I was just concerned for my neighbor and worried for his safety, but I knew deep down I just wanted to see whatever Too Far Gone was like. There was one night last week where I saw my neighbor open his door like usual to pick up his takeout order, but there was nothing to pick up. He didn't appear at the door either, just quickly unlocked the door and then ran out, leaving it swaying gently in the breeze of the night. I tried to fight my rising curiosity, but I felt my legs move to creep to his front door before I could reason with myself any further. Opening his door slowly, I called out my neighbor's name with no response. The stench of rotting food hit my nose in a damp raft. His house was in seeming disrepair. Dark stains on the floor and walls, rotten food smothered into the carpet and piled up high on the counters, and dishes and other decorations smashed into the walls, gathering into piles in the floor. It looked like he had been robbed. I began to think that he wasn't at home, but then I heard a shudder, a faint sob from one of the rooms upstairs. Moving up the stairs quietly, careful to dodge the piled-up trash and mysterious damp stain, I came to the hallway lime lit in crimson. Red light seemed to be streaming through a silver in the door frame of the room, the soul of the camp. All I could hear was hushed breathing and uncontrollable sobs from whoever was in the room, followed by silence. I had to look closer. Through a silver in the door frame, I saw bathed in a reddish glow. There knelt my neighbor. He had a video playing on his laptop that could only be described as the deep, rambling audio of someone speaking, followed by the occasional laugh and another deep voice of someone replying. I couldn't make out what was being said, but my neighbor's shoulders shook as he whipped along to whatever was being said. And then there was a reprieve. Whatever was playing on the laptop stopped, only faint static could be heard. Finally, looking up, my neighbor reached around behind him. He had tears still streaming down his face, a shaking, apprehensive sigh, and a soul-man look on his face. He sawed a finger off. I could feel my pulse roaring in my ears. I was unable to tear my eyes away from what was unfolding in front of me. With the finger now gushing blood, my neighbor cried out. He jabbed his finger onto the floor and drew something, an ornate and jagged sigil that read the letter H. His body began to writhe and shake in a crumpled heap on the floor. The blood from the sigil smeared on the floor and over his clothes as he wailed and screamed. It looked like something was moving around underneath his skin. His arms and legs bent in unnatural angles, rolling over before somehow getting to his knees like before. He screamed and screamed over and over, horrific wailing filling the room before finally it all stopped. His body stayed there, in that kneel, until his eyes rolled back and his mouth opened to an unnatural degree. Viscous liquid flooded from his eyes, nose and down his chin as a loud, booming voice came out of him like a speaker. He is here. He will accept you into his He will accept you into his dire light once you give yourself as a vessel for him. For he shows the way in the revolting and paints the horrific in unholy murals. My neighbor clamped his mouth shut before his neck bent into an unnatural angle to face me, looking me directly in the eyes. His bones creaked and moaned as they bent his legs and arms. He went from kneeling to galloping unsteadily towards me in a split second, leaving me no time to react. He jumped towards me, screeching as he managed to grab one of my ankles in my mad dash away from him as he dragged me into his room. I got a good look at his face up close as he loomed over me. The red liquid from earlier had dried on his cheeks, and his chin bud still dripped from his eyes. His eyes had completely clouded over, with the aged sigil being seemingly burned into his forehead now. He grabbed my shoulders with shaking hands as he raised what was left on his finger to my forehead. I squeezed my eyes shut, unable to move, frozen in fear. He drew the sigil on my forehead before bowing his head to whisper in my ear, "He will be with you soon." He then passed out suddenly, landing suddenly on the floor next to me. I ran out of that house as fast as my legs would allow. Luckily, none of my other neighbors saw me in that state. I don't care what happens to my neighbor at this point. I didn't even close to the door behind me as I ran to my bathroom to scrub the sigil off of my forehead. I had 5 showers in a row since then, and I showered twice daily and scrubbed my face until it's red. It's been a few weeks since then, and I have been having crazy dreams every night ever since. It starts off normal and morphs into this face. It looks so uncanny. It has black eyes far too big for its face, and a wide smile with a few too many teeth that stretches its face so far the skin tears. I don't sleep much now, and I haven't been going to work recently because of these dreams. I have started to research if other people see this face as much as I do, but there was nothing. I think I'm going crazy. Whenever it's quiet in my house now, I feel like I can hear someone or something walking around downstairs and creeping up the stairs. And every time I open my door and check, there is nothing there, and the noise stops for a few hours before starting up again. It's probably the sleep deprivation, but I can't function properly anymore. And one night I let the noise go further and further up the stairs, coming across the hall before clicking open the lock to my door with ease. I rolled over as fast as I can and pretended to sleep. It knew I was awake. It makes this faint, deep, raveling murmur from the back of its throat before breathing heavily for what seemed like hours. I can feel it move closer to me, putting its large head close to mine, looming close enough that I can hear the squeak as it grinds its teeth. It stays there, staring a hole in the back of my head for hours, as I can see the outline of its head from the shadow on my wall. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't tell what's real and what's a dream anymore. I keep telling myself that whatever is behind me is a dream, but the dark marks on the floor and the heavy thumping on my heartbeat says otherwise. He's here for me, he who shows the way in the revolting and paints the horrific in unholy murals.